Hey everybody, Tom Barnes. Stories from the 78 from downtown Milwaukee at the Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Did you know there was a thing? I didn't know there was a thing. But they have over 10,000 bobbleheads in here. Come on with me a little bit because I'm just going to walk a little bit through it. But it's open, I believe, every day 10 to 6. I'm going to talk to my friend Phil about how I got started and the entire process of collecting over 10,000 bobbleheads. Something like this for this story from the 78.
Phil, you are the co-founder and CEO of the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame, and that's why I wanted to talk to you because I feel like that place is amazing. I love that it's in the Midwest. Welcome. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and in summertime, especially in Chicago, I know that you guys are inundated by Illinoisans coming up that way. There's a fun acronym that people from Wisconsin use. We won't say it, but people from all over the world, for that matter, coming up to Wisconsin because of Summerfest and specifically in Milwaukee there. But Madison's also a great stop, and then anybody loves a good lake, Wisconsin's the place. But when in Milwaukee, Harley Davidson Museum, great food, baseball, I'm sorry, Bobblehead Hall of Fame Museum, and you have everything, not just baseball. Why don't you explain the concept of the museum for people who might not be familiar?
Yes, so we're the only museum in the world dedicated to bobbleheads. We have over 10,000 unique bobbleheads on display from all different genres and periods. So everything from baseball to basketball, football, hockey, all the other sports, non-sports, music, movies, TVs, really you name it. We have it on display. And then going back all the way to the late 1800s, to bobbleheads that may have just been given away at a game, last week on display. So it's a lot of fun. And then also exhibits about the history, how they're made, the stories behind them. And then it's a fun activity for kids and as well. We have scavenger hunts where kids can go find clues or one bobblehead for every letter in the alphabet. We have prizes for the kids and a Waldo bobblehead hidden amongst the 10,000 plus bobbleheads, which is fun for everybody to take a look for. And yeah, it's just trying to be a fun experience, and it's affordable for everybody as well. With the low admission fee of $5. We also have a store so people can take home a bobblehead, over 500 different bobbleheads to choose from, and merchandise as well to commemorate your visit to the only museum in the world dedicated to bobbleheads.
So the museum is not small. It's a decent size. I walked through it, and as soon as you think you might be coming to the end, you're like, oh no, it goes that way now, or it turns this way, and then there's 100 other shelves, and you just said 10,000 bobbleheads. You need a little bit of room to get all that displayed. And it's a lot of fun. You can kind of just get lost in there and just and you have it organized, like you have the 2016 Cubs World Series bobbleheads I see that you had out there displayed. And of course, you have the Cardinals and the Brewers, of course, because that's the hometown. Has baseball really loved that there is a bobblehead hall? I mean, because baseball is synonymous with bobbleheads when you think of like the golden era of baseball, right?
It is, yeah. So baseball is definitely the biggest category when it comes to bobbleheads. We do have a regional section, which leads into the local section. So sometimes people from Wisconsin are a little upset that they see the Chicago bobbleheads first, but that's just the way we have it set up. But yeah, baseball, it was really 1960, 61 season, a company that produced merchandise to sell at stadiums, made a series of generic bobbleheads for every different team in baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. Every major league team was included in that series. And so that really kicked off the excitement. Fans went to the games, they bought them. You could also send it mail order for them, and a lot of corner stores would have them for sale. And it was something that, kids started to collect, adults collected, some kids played with them. They were made out of paper mache, so a lot of them got broken. Kids would get the Bears and the Packers and bang them up against each other. And those have become pretty collectible now. And there's different styles, and some are more rare than others, but it's something that, sort of kicked off things. And then they sort of faded out until the late 1990s. And that's when the first player specific stadium giveaway was for a bobblehead. And that was Willie Mays with the San Francisco Giants. And that really kicked off the the bobblehead craze, all the other teams and all the other sports started to get in on the excitement that fans were, showing for bobbleheads, and they continue to be the #1 draw when it comes to promotions at sporting events across the country.
Yeah, it's funny that they had a lag there for a while, after the 60s and before the 90s there. Was it just that it just wasn't something that teams were giving out, or was it just hard to get them, or it's just one of those things that just kind of faded away, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, yeah, why haven't we had these? We should have them for everything.
I think it was a mix. I think it also comes down to the production. I think that process that they were using in the 60s sort of didn't work as much with the new techniques, and in the 90s, that's when the production of sort of the current style of bobbleheads with the resin, sort of a nice quality bobblehead came about. And really, I think the Giants, if they wouldn't have done it, another team probably would have at some point, but that was really what kickstarted things in terms of the resurgence. And there were some bobbleheads in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, but they just weren't, the nicer quality, and they weren't really as popular as the ones from the 60s and 70s and the ones that came after in the late 90s, early 2000s.
And it seems like baseball, for some reason though, the bobblehead in baseball is just a little more special maybe than other sports. I know football, sure, with the nostalgia of some of the older teams, but even now you go to like a game up in Milwaukee or here in Chicago, first 10,000 people get, X bobblehead. It's a huge thing. Like, it's a big deal for a lot of these people, for collectors, for whatever else people use them for, eBay, whatever, what have you. It's a collector's item instantly is what I mean.
It is, yeah, and that's one of the fun things, going to a game, whether you're going to the game anyway to have a great time and enjoy the game and the park and everything, but to go away home with a bobblehead is awesome, it's special for fans. And it is something that you can see the value right away. You go to the game, get a bobble of whoever it may be, and you can see on eBay, them selling for maybe more than what you paid to get into the game for your ticket. And I think that's one of the things that really drove the popularity of bobbleheads in the late 90s is the invention of eBay. eBay was getting really popular around that time as well, and it was also the time of the Beanie Baby craze. And so people went to the game, got a bobblehead. If you were going to a Cubs game and got a Sammy Sosa bobblehead, there might be fans in California and New York and Dominican Republic that want that bobblehead. And so eBay was the place to go where people would look for that Sammy Sosa bobblehead. Fans would put it there, and they'd go for hundreds of dollars. And we still see that today, where some bobbleheads that were just given away can go for 50, 100, or even more.
Wow. Would you say that the most probably unique ones that you have in your collection there are the ones from the 1800s, or are there different ones that are perhaps like the must-sees when they come to the museum?
Yeah, so the must-sees, I think it depends on the person. Kids love like Disney and SpongeBob and some of those unique characters, and adults, they see characters from their childhood, whether it's the Three Stooges or Simpsons or Star Wars. So a lot of those non-sports ones are up in the favorite, but then if a Cubs fan comes and sees that full collection of 2016 World Series bobbleheads, or Brewers fans love the Bob Uecker bobbleheads. But in terms of the most unique, I'd say some of those really old ones people aren't necessarily expecting to see, and in a lot of cases don't know that they even made bobbleheads before the 90s or before the 60s.
And as far as the experience going through the museum, 10,000 bobbleheads there, and I could see from the picture behind you, you got some really big ones. They're not just all the same size; they're different sizes.
Yeah, that's right. So we have a bobblehead that's about 1 inch to bobblehead that's over 7 feet tall. And it really, it spans all different sizes. You can see Kerry Wood above my shoulder. I think that's about 18 inches tall, and then on the other shoulder is a southpaw from the White Sox.
Yeah, 2 Chicago teams there. Is that by choice there?
It's just that is the regional section on the left side there. But Kerry Wood just happens to be up there with Ricky Williams, I believe.
So how often do you add to the collection as you go, like per year? Is it kind of just whatever happens that year, or is it an average? Like you got like 10 new ones a year, 20, what have you?
Yeah, it's generally in the hundreds of new ones each
Oh,
year.
jeez.
Yeah, sometimes in a day we might get 20 new bobbleheads. Then the fun thing is there's new characters, whether it's on the sports side or pop culture world, that are popping up on a frequent basis and getting turned into bobbleheads, whether it's a political, which actually date back to the 60s as well, or a new rookie in baseball like Dela Cruz from the Reds, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
getting
he's
his
having a
first
killer
bobblehead.
year.
Yeah, so that's fun to see that progress, because 5 years ago there were no Patrick Mahomes bobbleheads, or 6, 7 years ago, and now there's dozens, and we don't necessarily keep. We might have them all, or several of them, most of them, but we don't necessarily have them all on display at a given time. So we do some rotating and some selection of which ones will people enjoy seeing the most.
Is it difficult to get the bobbleheads, or just like the teams work with you and knowing that this exists as a bobblehead Hall of Fame museum? Is it something that they're embracing with you guys? Because it only helps, everybody helps each other in that case, right?
Yeah, so no, we've had some great relationships fostered over the years with teams, and continue to build those relationships where we'll reach out to them in some cases and they'll send us the bobbleheads. In other cases they may just send them without us even asking. And then there's other cases where we find a new bobblehead produced and want to add it to the collection, and we'll reach out, or sometimes just go out and buy it if we can't get in contact with the correct person. But yeah, almost every team that we've ever worked with, or asked, has willingly sent the bobbleheads, and love having them on display. It's great for them. Fans from across the country and across the world get to see their players, their team, their brand on display, and we get to have more of a comprehensive collection.
Yeah, definitely a multi-generational experience when you go to the museum. Like you said, you've seen things from the 60s. So grandpa's going to be excited, or grandma's going to be excited about stuff they might see from, I think you had women's professional baseball bobbleheads there from like the Rockford Peaches and others, so you have that aspect of it, all the way to what you were saying, Patrick Mahomes, or even Dansby Swanson of the Cubs, or whatever have you, for the Milwaukee Brewers, and now the Reds. The Reds are making a stake to the first place claim. As long as it's not St. Louis, I think we could both agree that's a good thing.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, 7 days a week you guys are open, right?
Yeah, so we're open Monday through Friday from 10 to 6, and then weekends from 10 to 5. We're always a little busier when the Brewers are home. It's a great stop for visiting fans who are coming from wherever the Brewers are playing. We usually see quite a few visiting fans, whether it's Chicago or Los Angeles, or one of the New York teams. There's a great contingent that usually travels to come see the stadium, formerly called Miller Park, or Wrigley North, for Chicago fans still. But yeah, it's definitely a fun time of the year to be in Milwaukee with the weather, prime season, outdoor dining and bars and Summerfest and all other festivals.
Milwaukee really is a awesome place. I love going there. The St. Kate Hotel is a really great stop in Milwaukee. If you're going to stay somewhere, you have your museum, and then you got the brewery just down the street from you guys. It's baseball themed. They even have their own wiffle ball field inside. So like Milwaukee's really a solid baseball town, a great music town, and really great food town. A lot of fun going up to Milwaukee.
Yes, definitely. You can get some of the best cheese curds, bratwursts, all kinds of great food. And yeah, Broken Bat Brewery is literally across the street from us. We have about 6 cases of bobbleheads on display there, mainly baseball and Wisconsin themed, but they have all baseball themed beers, and like you mentioned, wiffle ball if you have some time. But yeah, it's a great area too. We're right at the edge of the 3rd Ward in Walker's Point, which has a ton of restaurants, shops, things to do right along the river. So yeah, it's a fun spot to be, and it's great to see people bobble in from all over the place to check out the museum.
Last question. What's the weirdest bobblehead you have? The most unique, strangest one where you're like, wow, I didn't think we ever have that bobblehead.
So I usually come back to Mr. Hanky from South Park, Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poo. Sort of interesting seeing him turn into a bobblehead.
Yeah, and one of the 10,000 choices to choose from. Phil, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me. I love this museum. I think it's such a cool thing that it exists, and I love that it's right up in Milwaukee. A great baseball town, like I said, a great sports town in general, hence why the bobbleheads all kind of converse there. So thank you. And the website for people who want more information from you guys.
Yeah, it's bobbleheadhall.com. So bobblehead HALL.com. We also have a virtual tour on there. So if you can't make it to Milwaukee for some reason or want to get a sneak peek before you make it up here, you can take a 360-degree tour. It's a great way. It gets a lot of people excited about their visit, because you can't, get the full experience, but it gives you a little taste of what you're going to see.
Yeah, but very family affordable, family friendly, the whole thing. And you got a place right below you guys that do that as a food place as well with great cheeseburgers. So yeah, all right there. It's fantastic. I had a great time when I was there.
Yes, and yeah, we recommend Stacked, which is right below us, has awesome burgers, like you said, fried pickles as well that you get on each burger, or you can order a side if you need more than one, which usually a lot of people do.
Thanks, Phil. I appreciate you taking time to chat with me.
No problem, Tom. Thank you, and have a great day.
All right, that's the story from Phil here at the Bobblehead Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. TomBarneyChicago@gmail.com. If you have a suggestion for something like this from me for the stories from the 78, or go over to the website storiesfromthe78.com. But look at that, we'll leave you with Sister Jean, Chicago audience, because how it started, how it's going, kind of.